So I've seen a lot within this, what you call the conscious community, or just within people who are searching for a higher vibration of knowledge. One thing I noticed is that there's a good number of people, when they get a lot of knowledge, when they do a lot of studying, they lose their mind. They can't, it's overload, it's information overload. You'll see them niggas on the street walking like this, talking, it's just too much information for them. What happens when a person gets into this information, is studying day in and day and night, and then they just lose their mind one day? What is happening scientifically for them to lose their mind based on intaking so much information?
I think that's all relative to the capacity for the person to envelope the information within and maintain it. You know, I feel like, you know, certain people have the capacity to maintain as much information as they can, but again, that's all relative to the mind. And the mind itself is a resonant structure. I always refer to the mind as the magnetic field. And if your magnetic field isn't strong enough, then the brain, which is the crystal, the transducer that transduces the visuals and the information that's within the magnetic field and translates it to the body, if the magnetic field isn't strong enough, then the body is going to respond in that nature, and thus it's almost like the body short circuits because the wattage is so strong. You see, so you know, a person who's just kind of haphazardly doing the information but not necessarily living it is someone who goes through that process. Because I always say there's a difference between taking on information and becoming the information. A lot of people take on information in order to sound deep, to just regurgitate it, to get brownie points. Other people actually take the information, integrate it within themselves, and actually try and demonstrate it as well in their personal lives. But I don't even necessarily mean physically demonstrate it. What they do is they freestyle with it in their mind. So they'll take certain levels of information here and there, and what they'll do is run reference points through their mind, so that way they can kind of bring it together in their own fashion and thus deliver it based on their own way of integrating with the information. So again, when we're talking about people who get a sense of overload or, you know, information, you know, it's just too much. That is just the ability to just maintain the information by way of how strong the mind is. If the mind and the magnetic field isn't strong enough, then again, the body itself is going to naturally short circuit because the information is basically too much wattage for the physical body to maintain. And thus you get somebody who, you know, what they consider lose it, or, you know, things of that nature.
Yeah, you know, this is off. This is just a Virgo observation, but I love just observing. That's why I ask questions, because I observe everything, and I'm a listener, and I watch. And when I talk to you brothers like you or Rod Hayes or whatever, I ask a question, and I'll watch how y'all download the answer. So Rod Hayes his eyes will go up here. Now I just asked you a question, and your eyes was like, you was like this downloaded like that shit. That shit is crazy, the human body, and this is like involuntary. We don't know we doing it, but somebody asks something, and then you just like you start to look up. You look in the left, you look in the right, or sometimes you look from left to right. It's just interesting, the technology that we have. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
I could dig it.
Yeah, no, I remember Dr. Jewel Pookrum speaking about that years ago. She had said basically when you see somebody looking up, basically they're trying to integrate the information because it's being processed again. The brain itself it goes through a level of stress. You subject the brain to stress whenever you think a thought. Whenever you allow the brain to go through a strenuous process, whether it's fasting, whether it's taking on higher levels of information,